Hi there. My name is David Karofsky, and I'm with the Family Business Consulting Group.
And I'm Chris Cahill from 12 Points Wealth Management in Concord, Massachusetts.
Today, we're going to talk about the concept of growth, risk, profitability, and liquidity as it relates to a family business. As a family business consultant, this is one of the major areas that we often focus on, is really helping families align around the concept of a growth strategy for your family business. What risk are you willing to take? What profitability are you looking for within the organization, as well as what liquidity you're looking for, either in the terms of distributions, dividends, or even ultimately the ultimate liquidity event in the event of a sale. Our key piece is, in order for families to really strive around these four concepts of growth, risk, profitability, and liquidity, there needs to be alignment. And as you well know, if you're in a family business, sometimes depending on what generation you're in, you may have different concepts of what growth strategy you're looking for versus what level of risk are you willing to take, what profitability do you want to keep in the business versus do you want to pull out, and what type of liquidity ultimately are you looking for. And so my job is to help build alignment from a family business perspective. Chris, how do you look at growth, risk, profitability, and liquidity?
Well, it's one of the first things that we pay attention to when we get involved with the family business is to really sit down with G1 to model out what their needs and goals are, because absent a real understanding as to what they need to either take out of the business or they need from assets outside that they already have to maintain their standard of living, you can't have a successful transition until you really figure all of that stuff out. So we focus on robust cash flow modeling to make sure that we identify the needs and goals of G1, and that will dictate what and how we can transition the business from G1 to G2. So really it's a planning focus, and that is really where it all starts.
So as a financial planner, your job is to, help leverage the success of the family business, but
Absolutely.
Also to say, how do we plan for the future, in some ways in the absence of the family business. And by this successful planning, by being able to pulling out some of the assets out of the business, leveraging it, diversifying it in other areas, that actually helps the family create a better growth strategy. It allows them to even become more aligned on risk and profit and liquidity as well.
It certainly does. And to a huge extent, the sooner we can be engaged with the family business, the better, truly, because to your point, David, if they can take money out of the business and avoid the trap of investing all of the family assets back in the business, which we see so often.
Yep.
If they can support themselves, mom and dad, G1, and develop wealth away from the business, it really just makes a smoother ability to transition from an obvious perspective, right? Because if there's less of a need to pull out X millions of dollars from the business in order for them to retire, if they've already got that wealth put aside and maintained and managed effectively, just makes for a smoother ability to move forward, transferring the business down to G2, 3, or 4. So that's really critical from our perspective.
When you look at it in times like this, during the coronavirus, to me, it even has more applicability, that to have the asset diversification, to be able to be pulling out some of that wealth out of the business, to know that you have your rock here, might even in some ways provide more confidence in your ability to weather the storm from the family business perspective, because you might be able to pivot within the business and even take a little bit more risk that you otherwise might not be able to. Would you agree with that concept?
Certainly, and you could, to your point, pivot into a different line of business that all of a sudden has become important and valuable and something that you might not have ever thought about before. We've all heard the stories of manufacturers that have pivoted and become, all of a sudden, they're now ventilator manufacturers, right, or they're masks, whatever it may be. That is a potential profit center that wasn't there before. It's also a potential risk. And if you aren't comfortable with your own personal wealth in the future of yourself and your family outside of the business, it would be more difficult to be able to say, we're going to go do that. So having the assets outside and the ability to feel comfortable with what you've accumulated, it would make it easier to be able to pivot and do these other business models that you just described for sure.
So I want to wrap this up with a couple of key points. I'll start with the family business side, and then you can hit it from the financial advising side,
Sure.
and kind of preparation side. For me, I really believe that every challenge creates an opportunity, and you just got to find out what your opportunity is. In challenging times, to me, the opportunity for many family businesses right now is to get aligned on the concept of growth, risk, profitability, and liquidity. Have the family come together and talk about what is our growth strategy today, even during the pandemic, but also when we come out of this, and we will, what will our growth strategy look like after this is over? Mm-hmm. What is our risk profile going to look like? What level of risk is G1 or G2 willing to take versus a G3 or G4?
And those have probably changed.
And they've definitely changed. There's no question. Particularly, the markets. People have unfortunately some have lost a lot of wealth in the market. So that might change in their risk profile. What's your profitability goals, and what liquidity are you looking for, both short term and long term? So alignment, and by the way, alignment helps reduce conflict, which we're all looking for in our families and our businesses. So those are kind of the tips that I throw out there. Chris, what are some of the tips that you would throw out there?
So from my perspective, the most important thing coming out of this this pandemic, and I completely agree with you, David, we will come out of it, is to be more focused on your business, where you are and what you're trying to accomplish, and make sure that you're paying attention to the inherent risks that are associated therein, but also, what your objectives are for the business. I mean, I could easily see many G1 families saying, we're lucky to have survived this. Let somebody else deal with it now. Let's push it down to G2. So I could see a lot more uptick in succession planning and transitions. Yep. Mm-hmm. I think there'll be opportunities there from valuation perspectives. That'll be interesting to see. But I think that people are going to be changed here. But when we come out of it, what we're going to see is business will get back to whatever the new normal is. And to your point, making sure that G1 and G2 are aligned with their objectives and goals is going to be more critical than ever, because there are going to be those needs for transition. So that's my suggestion, is that we just really continue to have those family meetings, teams of advisors getting together, working on behalf of the clients. Yep. And getting the clients to really voice what they're looking to accomplish with this family business.
And you got to plan for it. It doesn't just happen overnight. You've got to prepare. It can take 3, 5, 10 years to get the right portfolio plan to be able to even tackle some of these things. So you got to plan in advance.
Yes, sir.
All right. Absolutely. Chris, how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about you and your firm?
Thank you. They can reach me at chris@12pointswealth.com. Our website is 12pointswealthmanagement.com. And as I said, we're a wealth management firm out of Concord, Massachusetts and Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm an attorney, a certified financial planner, and a chartered advisor in philanthropy. And I specialize in working with wealthy individuals, families, and family-owned businesses.
All right, perfect. And you can learn more about the Family Business Consulting Group at www.thefbcg.com. Thanks. Have a great day.